Good evening. I'm Jim Lara in Washington.
And I'm Robert MacNeil in New York. After the news summary this Tuesday, we have excerpts from Janet Reno's confirmation hearing to be Attorney General and a discussion about what she faces in the Justice Department. Then former presidential candidate Paul Tsongas tells us what he thinks about the Clinton economic plan. Top law enforcement officials were on Capitol Hill today to discuss the bombing of the World Trade Center. James Fox, head of the FBI's New York office, told the House Judiciary Committee his professional gut feeling pointed to an organized terrorist group behind the bombing.
Those of us who have worked terrorism and counterintelligence matters for many years, from the first day you see an incident such as we have here, you develop certain feelings and suggestions, and you talk among yourselves, the old professionals, the tough old veterans at the office. And I think from early on, we were reluctant to say this was a bombing, but it was a bombing. Right. From early on, we were reluctant to say this is a terrorist incident, but now there's a lot of evidence that leads us to suspect it was a terrorist incident. And in the talk among the old veterans, that's the way they're talking, that this is a terrorist incident organized by a large, well-known terrorist group. Let me say, we aren't saying it's this particular group.
I understand. That's why I didn't ask that question.
Okay, thank you. We're saying it's a group that knows what they're doing, and perhaps not a bunch of ad hoc terrorists.
FBI Director William Sessions told the committee that Americans should be aware of terrorist activity, but should not view the New York bombing as the start of a wave of terrorism in this country. A group of Muslim extremists with possible ties to that bombing went on trial for terrorism today in Egypt. From behind bars, members of the group shouted claims of responsibility for the 1981 killing of Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. They also proclaimed as their leader a radical cleric living in the U.S. Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman preaches at a mosque in New Jersey. Mohammed Salameh, a suspect in the Trade Center bombing, worshipped at the mosque, according to federal officials. The Egyptian group is on trial for a terror campaign aimed at overthrowing that country's government.
Federal officials reported no change today, the 10th day in the armed standoff with the religious cult in Texas, but police and federal agents did raid a house near Los Angeles where cult leader David Koresh once lived. They searched the home but would not say if anything was found. Koresh moved from the house 2 years ago. Police officials said several cult members still lived there. Rodney King testified for the first time today against 4 Los Angeles police officers accused of beating him. He said he awoke in a hospital jail ward after the 1991 beating with a foggy memory, but he said he knew for sure he had been attacked by the officers. Earlier, lawyers for the officers said King had tested positive for cocaine and heroin use since the beating. Prosecutors charged the defense was waging a smear campaign against King. King did not testify in an earlier state trial that resulted in the officers' acquittal.